Hello, I'm ED-SKaR,
I'm Paul.
and today I have brought him along to a bolt action tournament.
Yeah.
Finally going to do the vlog between the two of us.
I look like I'm wearing cool sunglasses.
He's wearing his cool sunglasses.
It's just my rectal-like glasses.
So we actually have a little bit of an interesting rule for the force selection for this game.
It's 2 platoons.
Yep.
And each can, and then it's 1,000 points total. So
Yep.
roughly 500 each, but obviously you don't have to.
I think mine's like 650 and 350.
So I've got 500 and 498.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an even split, but you have to have 2 platoons. What that does is that gives people the option of taking more of the same thing, because usually with 1 platoon you get 1 tank, 1 machine gun, 1 mortar, whereas today, because we're having 2 platoons, you can maybe have 2 tanks or 2 machine guns or 2. Obviously we're still limited on points, so you can't just have loads of stuff, but you can have more of the same thing than you usually would.
I've got a tank and a howitzer.
So he's got a tank and a self-propelled gun. But I think we should probably pass back to our past and or future selves to go through the army list, and then we can go inside.
I love those guys. Yeah, they're great guys.
What, our past selves?
The past or future selves.
Past or future selves? I think they're idiots.
Yeah.
Right, do you want to talk about your army?
No.
I'll do mine then.
I thought I'd be a little bit fun with the double platoon. My first platoon is a mass of inexperienced infantry. Of course, we have the free green rifle squad. This time I'm bringing the Strafbat prisoners as well. I did those on a video recently, and they are no points at all. The light machine gun squad here is sort of the leftover points from the whole army, and so they're actually regular, the only thing regular in this first platoon. The officer, light mortar, and Katyusha are all inexperienced. The idea is that this half will just blob up and meander forwards and distract my opponents. The second platoon is much more mobile, with 2 tank rider squads and an officer on a jeep. As this is only 1,000 points, one of the tanks is a T-70 light tank, only one of the 2 tank rider squads has body armour, and neither are at full strength. Right, let's see what Paul has.
And my platoons are led with my 2 lieutenants, but I only had a first major on a horsey for the second one, so he's just going to be a proxy. The first platoon has the Horo, which is my favourite tank because of the 4-inch blast. I've got my sniper team, which I acquired recently, and a lunge mine guy. There's 2 rifle squads, the only difference being that one's got a submachine gun for the NCO. The second platoon has the Chihar medium tank, and of course my newly acquired bamboo spear fighters, which I like amusingly just to tie up enemy tanks with. For this game I've also taken grenades for them. Lastly is the grenadiers. I love this loadout with the 3 mortars. Don't often get chance to zero in, but with the 3 chances of 6 on each turn, they normally get at least 1 hit in, which is fun.
For my first game, I paired up with a brand new player, someone who has played a lot of war games, but new to bolt action, and so I welcomed them with a fun game. We had 4 objectives, and we decided to put 2 each right on our own sides. The British paras and my tank riders are good at moving forwards, and so it was really a scrap to see who could dislodge who from those objectives. Some hilarity throughout the game, including this flamethrower filling my armoured car with burning fuel, my Katyusha missing just about everything all the time, and the artillery observer's shot aimed right in the middle of my Inex platoon, who scattered in all directions of the wind, except the officer who caught one of the shells as it fell. The artillery observer also managed to knock off both of my tank rider squads with his rifle. That's knock off as in knock them off of the tank, not knock off as in wiping them out. That would be excessive. Now, my inexperienced platoon did just about hold up the 2 objectives on my side. My mobile platoon didn't quite take any objectives, but did shoot my opponent off of one, and so we scored 2-1. It was a fun game, really hard fought and tough the whole way through, and my opponent promised to return with a whole new army, which will be fun.
The first game of the day was my Imperial Japanese versus the Australians. During the advanced deployment, I kind of made the rookie mistake of forward deploying my snipers to the edge of a field rather than into the field. Misunderstanding the cover rules a little bit there, so my bad. I put them in ambush, which kind of held that area at least anyway for the first couple of turns. I thought was doing quite well, but obviously didn't. My opponent was running almost exclusively infantry. He did have a jeep, but that did mean that my lunge mine soldier wasn't really doing a great deal for the game. Amusingly, he did get ambushed towards the end of the game, standing next to one of my own destroyed tanks. And he just had 3 blokes standing in front of him with guns, and that was the end of him. Sadly, this game sort of resulted in me in losing and not gaining any objectives or any kill points. So that was a bit of a disappointing start to the day, but we learn as well as we means to get one.
The second game for me is also against the British Empire, a running theme for us, and we're trying to get off the board on the opponent's side. A game mode that I think needs a totally different list build to what most players use, but today I have 5 vehicles, and so I should have the advantage. My armoured car had a good go at just getting off of the board as quickly as possible, but was taken out by an ambush order from this anti-tank rifle, immediately after I was saying how anti-tank rifles are useless. Serves me right, I guess. My T-70 tried using the road in the middle and got itself howitzered. The tank riders that fell off of it did absolutely excellent work slowly wandering up the rest of the road, being charged by Gurkhas and wiping them out, and then shooting down another squad and scaring off my opponent's officer. The free rifle squad, however, is the MVP of this game. Right at the start they charged my opponent's sniper, and then out of the back of the building they charged the anti-tank rifle, and then got charged by another Gurkha squad, which they somehow managed to survive and win that combat. But of course they were eventually wiped out by that howitzer. My inexperienced officer, doing the job of an officer for once, sat in the middle of the board and gave his +1 leadership to everybody around him, who all managed to pass, and then himself failed his order test and went down. On the left we had this fun little fight nearly falling off of the edge of the board between the light transports, and whilst I did sort of win this, it tied me up long enough that I didn't score any points with this. In fact, at the end of the game I didn't get anyone off the board and only scored 1 point from actually having a unit fairly close to the board. My opponent, however, got loads and loads of units through my collapsed right flank and won the game.
The second game for me was against the British. I had a great deal of difficulty getting my units onto the table as well, so we had half the units start off the table and come on. So I decided to play a bit more aggressive on this one after the last game. I was feeling a little bit, down on the idea, so I thought I'm going to push hard. My opponent obviously bought a massive Churchill tank, and I was basically driving up the centre of the road for the speed bonus with my tank, and came up against that, which was obviously amusing. We ended up in a bit of a standoff at that point, which sort of lasted for a couple of turns until I got my bamboo guys in. So the bamboo fighters managed to run up to the Churchill and effectively destroyed the track, so it was unable to move for the rest of the game, which allowed me to move my tank out and use it elsewhere. So then on the other 2 flanks, I was pushing quite hard, particularly on my right, where I'd put like the snipers together with a HQ quite close. I got all the way up to the last piece of terrain, but my opponent had some veterans there. I thought I'd managed to shoot enough of them to make it feasible, but in a charge he managed to take me out in close combat. Ultimately, because he had the transport vehicle, he managed to tow a large gun over to my side of the table and won with the 2 points for getting those over the line.
For the last game, the organiser, Nick, had a chat with me about using some of the missions that I come up with for fun. And just on the spot, I came up with another one. I kind of threw some ideas out, and he liked it enough to just use it. 3 objectives start on the centre line of the board, and you use infantry squads to slowly drag them back towards your side. Now, this wasn't really thought out, but Nick was like, hey, let's just play test it live. For this last game, my opponent was...
me! Imperial Japan versus Soviet Union. Ed took a very early lead on this because he pushed his lieutenant straight onto one of the objectives using his jeep. My Horo, which I had deployed in that area, failed to see him off, sadly, and soon got tangled up with Ed's T-70 tank.
Whilst my officer was pulling that objective back across the river, I sent my entire infantry blob up the middle, hoping to get to that middle objective first, but Paul's spear fighters beat me to it.
I placed my snipers on the opposite end of the board to cover one of the objectives. My aim was really to stop Ed from moving in, so I'd put them on ambush, and then was moving my troops in. My GR came in on that side as well, and luckily, through an act of dice, managed to survive Ed's T-34 2 times, I believe, 4 times. It's super lucky. It survived the entire game somehow.
I never quite got to the objective on that side, and the middle was turning into an absolute bloody mess with several squads on both sides being wiped out.
My biggest issue early on in the game was the Katusha, which was absolutely devastating. Luckily, through an act of subterfuge on my part, Ed was talking to another player in the room when it came to my turn, so I managed to move my lunge mine soldier over the river and hide him behind a building. So when Ed came back to the table, he didn't actually see what I'd moved, which was quite amusing. This allowed, obviously, into the next turn for me to run up and blow that thing up. So that was quite a funny moment.
Yes, a sneaky guy with a bomb on a stick.
With the ongoing slaughter in the centre of the table, Ed managed to push up on the flank where my snipers were and got a very lucky shot off killing my spotter. And then a second unit killed the sniper itself, which allowed him obviously to take that entire flank. This was quite bad because that side had an archway leading to the centre where the main combat was going on, which obviously allowed him to flank me from the rear.
After many turns of tank dueling, ending in 2 totally unhurt tanks, I reassigned my tank riders to clean up the middle. Looks like the gunners of both the Chiha and the T-34 need some retraining, or the Gulag.
After losing the final infantry unit I had that was capable of capturing the objective, I decided to concede the game at that point. We didn't have much time left in the day. The only infantry I had left was the lieutenant on the horse, so I couldn't actually capture the objective anyway.
And so the day came to an end, with lots of fun all around. I came 6th out of 8 players, and I won the Tank Wars rulebook. I also bought the Zona Alpha rulebook, and a friend at the event gave me one of the Armies of Great Britain book, so I'll have some good fun playing Britain in a few games in the future.
At the end of the day, I came dead last from all 8 players there. I'm disappointed I didn't get 7th, but it is what it is. It was all fun, that's the main thing. War Games Workshop, we had a raffle at the end of the day, and I came away with a US flamethrower team for my small US army. I say small, it's getting larger and larger every time I come down.
Well then, that's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
We don't go to Ravenholm. So we've had a pretty good fun day.
Yeah, a good day out. I'm tired now.
Yeah. Tired is a thing that we both are. So we're gonna clear off.
Yeah.
You got any favourite bits from the games that we've literally just mentioned?
Well, yeah, I had a bit of a laugh with some of them. I mean, obviously, I didn't win anything again, but
yeah. I won 2 of my 3 games, but then came well below half overall, just on not getting many points.
1 point, yeah. Points.
I think my favourite bit was in the first game, having the 2 tanks and the tank rider squads punch up, and that just worked really well. Yeah.
We in the last game, obviously, we played against each other. We ended up having a little bit of a little mini battle smack in the middle, where we just ignored the 2 outer objectives.
Yeah, all of the inexperienced squads in close combat with each other, just absolutely wrecking it. That was good fun.
I finished with how many units did I have left? 3?
The 2 vehicles and the officer by his lonesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for watching along.
And thank you to Paul for coming down and giving me a lift.
As always.
As I usually do, next month will probably be the same thing, but just by myself. And maybe at some point we can have Paul down for another game, whenever that is.
Yeah.
Just convenient that he was down at the right time for this one.
May,
Yes, May. Anyway. But thank you very much for watching. I'm ED-SKaR,
I'm Paul Allen.
and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye now.